Welcome to Conversations with Kev, a regular Q&A session where I talk to hypnotherapists, business specialists, and influencers about the business skill sets needed to run a successful hypnotherapy practice. To kick off these sessions today, I'm talking to Mary Collins. Mary has worked as a multimedia journalist for over 20 years. Scriptwriting, producing, and directing television programs around the world finally took its toll, and after having 2 back surgeries, she took a break from her grueling work schedule, focusing instead on self-healing through hypnotherapy. She has undertaken an intensive 3-month hypnotherapy course, followed by further hypnotherapy certifications, leading to a part-time career in hypnotherapy while she continues her journalism career in radio and as a columnist. Mary is here with me today discussing the importance of getting started with audio, from tech such as mics to sound and voice etiquette and scriptwriting. The focus is not about having necessarily the most expensive equipment, but instead using the right tools effectively. Whether you want to narrate, do voiceovers or your own podcast and recordings, she knows what it takes and what's overkill for beginners. So welcome to Conversations with Kev. It's great to have you here, Mary.
Thank you, Kev. It's a pleasure to be here. I am normally not on the receiving end of interviews. I'm normally the one doing the interviews, so it's kind of freaking me out. Now I feel sorry for the people that I've interviewed. But I'm really glad that I'm doing this with such a nice person who, has the setup going the right way. So thank you for having me.
Well, it's really kind of you. And I assure you, all of this is kind of like cardboard boxes and things stuck together with gaffer tape and glue, but it works. And so let's get straight into it. So I've got an important question for you, and that is, why is basic tech knowledge important for anybody wishing to record their audio?
So the reason audio is so important is that it saves you time and money. If you know the right mics, the difference between a condenser versus a dynamic, processing power of your computer, your hardware, the applications that you're using like Audacity, GarageBand, there's so many out there, and there are people that have audio production degrees. This is like a university course. But if you're just trying to create nice audio for narration or for hypnosis or whatever it is, just knowing some of the basics really helps, because you can buy a really expensive mic and your connection doesn't work or the sound isn't right. And it's something so simple as checking what your settings are on your computer.
And I know when I first started, my first investment, I think I told you when we first spoke, my first investment was a good microphone, a USB mic. And I thought that was so important. So what's the first thing that really sort of puts people off about hypnosis or meditation or even podcast audios?
Well, people don't really have a large attention span. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine who's a futurist said that we're at the point where we probably have less of an attention span than a goldfish. So it's because there's so much media available. People just switch off if they don't like the quality of the sound. That's the first one. The sound. And then, then it's the images, and then it's the person they're looking at. There's a lot more to it. But if you have some sort of vibrancy about you and that comes across with your sound, it can make a lot of difference to whether you're successful or not.
Yeah, I found that myself, listening back to my own audios. Sometimes I absolutely hate them. Other times I think, I quite like that. I need to remember what I did and how I did it. And sometimes just by trial and error, it can be, the thing is, it's got to be fun, hasn't it?
Yeah. And it's no fun if you're trying to remember how to switch on the mic, or, there's so many times tech just can go bad at any point, and it happens even on studio productions and all sorts of things. But, having that mic, and just by having the location of the mic, where it's located, makes such a difference. And learning how to breathe, taking your time, and you do that so well, Kev. I love watching your videos. Because even if you're in a windy environment, knowing how to pace yourself and breathe and then speak, it makes such a difference. So,
well, I think for me, it's been outside. It automatically, amongst all that green, it automatically makes me feel relaxed. Whereas when I record inside, within my office, it's a whole different ballgame. It really is. So I'm intrigued. You mentioned something when we talked. You mentioned something called voice etiquette. So what is voice etiquette?
Voice etiquette is a Maryism, as in my name, because it's a combination of learning how to use your voice and the etiquette that you don't want to cause people pain by listening to you. I'm very sensitive to sound myself. And I find that if I hear like a whooshing sound, I don't mind dogs barking, I don't mind ambient sounds that are normal background sounds, but if I hear something weird where people use the gain and they turn up the volume too much, and then you get that kind of a sound that comes out, or the computer processing because it's over hot or overheated, that drives me crazy. So most people probably don't pick that up, or even when people add layers of music and then the music is too loud when it needs to be much more quiet, or they use music that they think is going to be perfect, they put it up on YouTube, it's copyright, bam, all of that work is gone. So I think it's just really, really important that you know how to pace, know how to breathe. It saves you on editing. That's the big thing too. It really saves you on editing, because if you have lots of pops and hisses and sounds that are background sounds, it's going to sound choppy. If you don't know how to space it as well when you edit, it's going to be like, if you don't know that you need to wait 3 seconds before you do the next sound or whatever, it can be a nightmare. And editing, doesn't have to be a nightmare if you record it properly in the first place.
I've discovered that many, many times. So if I was starting out today, what advice would you give me about what I need to get started? And would it cost me a lot of money?
I don't really believe that it has to cost a lot of money, because, we were having a conversation, Kev, about directing and cameras, right? And that people can have the most expensive equipment and they just don't know what they're doing. They take a picture, there's a wedding dress with someone in it and a pole behind them, and they're not seeing the picture, the bigger picture. So I'd say if you learn the basics of tech, if you learn like, okay, I need this because I'm going to do professional hypnosis recordings, or I need this because I just want to do interviews, or I need this because I'm going to do interviews outside and it's going to be very noisy. That's what you really need to, first of all, figure out what it is you want it for. And then the basic tech of, okay, this is what I need for this situation.
Right. And
then, it doesn't have to be expensive. I have in my other like home studio, I have a super cheap, under $100 mic system that I have sort of hang upside down, because then it stops me from breathing heavily into it or making too many sounds. And I've added pop filters and stuff, and that's made a big difference. And then I made sure there's a couch behind me. And there's different things that you can do that soak up sound, like extra ambient sounds. So I think that's it. I think, like you said yourself, you've got to set up that you use kind of tricks and hacks you don't go and buy the expensive pole or the expensive lighting necessarily. You just sort of find ways to set up your own rig. And I think that's it. If you take a real interest and you really want to do this, there are so many different hacks out there and ways and tips on YouTube and all these places, but there's a lot. So it's nice to be able to go to someone who can kind of condense it for you and just help you get started. And that's the thing, get started.
That's wonderful. And I think that kind of leads us right into the next thing I'm going to ask you, and that is for you to tell me about this course that you're running.
Right. So I am running a course that I've put together, and it's pretty much how to create your audio, your hypnosis audio. It can be used for any kind of audio. It can be used for narration. It can be used for, as I said, interviews. And it's going to have a couple of sections to it. It's going to be over 3 days, an hour each day. The first one is November the 25th, and it's every Friday for the 3 Fridays. And then the other one starts December the 4th, which is a Sunday, and it goes the 7th and the 11th, because it's more condensed because you're going to Christmas. So, and what it covers is tech, getting started with tech, just basics, tech problems, like what connectors you might need if you have a USB versus a different kind of mic, or headphones, which headphones are better. Also, we get into the whole narration and voice etiquette, like how to make the sounds less noisy or how to breathe properly. And then I get into some script writing as well, because, how to actually put together the imagery that you need can be quite complicated. And then, then we run through a little tests and see where everyone's at.
Wonderful. So how can they find out about this course with you, Mary?
Sure. They can go to www.time4change.info. And on there, as well as my Catch Your List Facebook page, which I will share the links down below, there are the 2 courses which you can book, and we take it from there.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight and your knowledge today. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Kev.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.